And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome to RBLR Bucs this week here on RBLR Sports. So today I'm joined by my main man, Musab. So Musab, how you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Thanks for asking, Stefan. We are getting closer and closer to the regular season, which is why tonight I am fired up wearing my tailgate season shirt of the Buccaneers, ready to talk about some Tampa Bay football.
Awesome, man. We'll talk about tailgating this past weekend. It was a good time down there. The weather was better at AJ, so that was good. It was better than the football game. So that being said, let's jump right into into a recap, Musab. So do you have any thoughts about the game? What did you think? Standouts, studs, anyone disappoint you? What were your thoughts there?
Well, the first thing is this game just makes me think a lot about how important our backups are, and seeing the errors and the struggles that we had this game against the Titans. It just makes me think, this is something we're going to have to think about because, are we going to be able to survive serious injuries? And that's on both sides of the ball. That's on offense and on defense. And, this is when it matters the most. So, hey, listen, it's also preseason, so I'm not taking it super, super hard. I'm hoping this was the last straw. This was like, hey, this was the game. I was like, listen, y'all, we made a lot of mistakes, but I'm praying that every single one of y'all learn from those errors. You learn from each other. Maybe it's a team chemistry issue. Maybe that's what it is, Stefan. But we'll learn, and I'm just hoping that once we get into the regular season, I think we should be ready. But I guess I wanted to just highlight the first thing was just the drops, I guess. And the first thing I wanted to say was, in my opinion, Kyle Trask, because I am a strong advocate for the Trask Train Express company. So for that reason, I just thought that his two turnovers were more on the receiver. But I want to know, Stefan, what do you feel on that, or just overall on the drops? Because there was drops going on all around. It wasn't just between Trask and his receivers. It was other people as well. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It was pathetic in my opinion. I thought the offense, and it's hard for me because I'm in the same Trask boat as you are, and I just don't think he's getting a fair shot. I know this happens to a lot of rookies that just come into the league. You're not going to get Mike Evans, you're not going to get these dudes to start the game, but it was a little pathetic. Too many drops for my taste. I thought two things to point out there was, Trask, it was 13-3, and Trask threw a dart right down the middle. It was a beautiful pass to Turner Hudson. And, a guy who's on the bubble, he's been there before. You would expect him to grab, and then it's a fumble, and then, that kills the vibe. It kills the whole drive, killed the game. Because then it went 20-3, and then, we're down a lot with all our backups, so that wasn't good. And then another guy, when it comes to drops, O.J. Howard, Jesus. But we need this guy to, get it going. If he wants to see any playing time, Brady has unbelievable hands, and so does Gronk. So, a lot of people have said before, do we trade him? Do we not? Performances like this definitely don't help. So, I thought from a drop perspective, that's kind of what I gathered. Another area that I wanted to bring up to you, what are your thoughts here? Joe Tryon, he just jumping. He looks unbelievable on the field. What do you think there?
Yeah, he went off. That kind of makes me think, some of these young guys are really stepping it up. Joe Tryon on the defense side and Tanner Hudson on offense, but digging a little deeper into Joe Tryon, from what the coaches have been saying, and just watching him overall, he was able to rack up his first official sack. And I think the defensive side was definitely did a better job for sure. And that's definitely thanks to him and the rest of the guys. But he is, we're seeing that he is very capable of doing all kinds of things. And, the big happiness for me is just thinking, how are we going to utilize this weapon, Joe Tryon, with the rest of our guys? How are we going to maximize his skills, or, when are we going to find the right time? Or, I guess I want to know maybe what are the coaches thinking, / also maybe what are you thinking? Are you thinking, Stefan, coming into week one, even week 2 to 3, all right, week 1 to 3, what do you think Joe Tryon's role is going to be? I guess just compared to the rest of the guys, compared to our starters, is he just going to be more of a special teams, maybe on certain downs, certain situations? How are you feeling about that?
Let me just say that's a beautiful question because I've been so pumped to see him, be unbelievable the last two preseason games that I have that taste in my mouth. Like, how are we going to do this? I mean, you got Shaq, you got JPP, and then, how are you going to mix them up? I'm assuming there'll be some sort of package where it would be awesome to see all three of them on the floor. You know that our guy Todd Bowles is very creative, so that would be awesome to watch if he can come up with a way to have all three out there. But I think for the most part, you want to keep Shaq and JPP, as healthy as possible for our second playoff run here. And so I would say I would assume they're just going to be rotating these three dudes, which I have no problem with. Maybe more a little JPP since Shaq got his big payday. Shaq's a little younger, so he'll probably be all the time, and so maybe a little JPP and Joe just sharing some of the load there as the season goes on. So that's what I expect. But there was another guy on the defense that I wanted to bring up because I said last week he was on the bubble, and he showed up and he really made me eat crow there. So I want to talk about Mr. Irrelevant Grant Stewart. 6 total tackles.
I was actually going to talk about him too. He was on my mind as well, just after
Yeah.
Joe Tryon, because you were talking about how these young guys are going to step up. So, what do you have to say about Mr. Irrelevant?
So 6 tackles, which is unbelievable. I mean, I think he led the team in tackles. So that was 6 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and then 1 sack. So I mean, he balled out. So it was
Yeah,
awesome.
he didn't play. He didn't play irrelevantly at all.
No, he did not. So he was very impressive. And then, what I really enjoyed was, I saw him and your guy, KJ Brent, next to each other. And it was almost like seeing, a very young Levante David and Devin White, his first year was like, wow, like we have depth at this position, which is nice to see, even though it's one of our best positions. So it was, he was a stud in this game. I mean, I hope he keeps the consistency so he can make the squad, and I think, KJ Britt, another solid day. I think he's set in stone. He'll make the team, but it was really impressive to see Mr. Irrelevant, go out there
It's a
and
very
perform.
competitive. Yeah, oh yeah, it's a very competitive field out there, and I mean, we're trying to keep the best. We're cutting players, and I'm glad to know though, Stefan, that he had something to carry himself forward into this past game against the Titans, which was obviously he was one of those few guys who didn't really have a true nice good looking game. So for that reason, I guess he had something on his shoulder reminding him that hey, he's got to take off this upcoming game, and I was impressed. I'm happy from him. And I'm just hoping, if we have a few more kind of people like who played like Grant Stewart this past game, our defense would be looking real good. And then on the other hand, I mean, it's more about drops. But I'll tell you, although I mean, there were drops with everyone. One guy I was very impressed with on the offensive side was Mr. Tanner Hudson. All right, this guy racked up 74 yards, averaging 12 yards per reception. So, I really like this because you mentioned what was going on with OJ Howard. It's already competitive. We already got Braden Gronk. So this is something I like to see, Stefan, because we had a successful, specifically end of season and postseason, thanks to our backups who stepped up when we needed them the most. And when after seeing this game, the feeling that I have is, I'm hoping. I mean, he's just going to get better and better. That's also the big thing as well throughout the season. But this is someone I think that we can count on at times. If needed be, if things happen, we can count on him to not mess up, to help us take us down the field with the rest of the guys. So I was very happy with Tanner Hudson's performance. If anyone, that was probably the only guy I was very happy with on the offensive side. So. I guess I want to know maybe offensive wise, who impressed you? And I mean, I guess Tanner Hudson, I'm sure made you somewhat happy, if not very happy. So how do you feel about him as well?
So I would say, he was the one guy that I was, most impressed. But then, the fumble did bother me a little bit just because, again, he's not a guy that plays a lot of special teams. So he's that one guy that's in the bubble. And, me and my dad had a running joke that him and Griff are the preseason kings. I mean, they always do well. And then this year, all of a sudden, maybe it's because we have more competition, more depth. They've struggled. But I would say for the most part, Tanner played very well except that fumble. I mean, everything else was pretty good. Tyler Johnson had a few good catches as well. He didn't get a lot of balls thrown his way, but he was good as well. So those were the two guys for me, that caught my eye, and that and I just think overall the defense was okay, but I was disappointed with the offense. I mean, it wasn't a good offensive performance. So that being said, here as we wrap up and move to the next one, is there anything else from this game that you think we haven't touched or that did catch your eye and you want to bring up?
No, nothing really. I think we went over everything. I guess the only thing that has kind of made me a little worried is just the post-game health issues, specifically COVID, and I'm sure you have some things to say about that as well, with Mike Vrabel testing positive, and just even like people like Ryan Suckup who had dinner with some of those guys on the Titans. So it's rather interesting to see that this is a little unfortunate that it happened, but hey, it happened, and again, it's preseason, so it's okay. I'm glad that these errors are happening now, because I'm praying that we don't make these mistakes again. So that being said, what do you have to say about the Texans? This upcoming game, it's preseason number 3. We've had our ups and downs with these 2 past games we played, Steph. And so how are we feeling? And, what do you think the players are feeling?
So I think that, I don't want to see there's no pressure, obviously. I mean, we're the Super Bowl champs, it's just a preseason game. But, in my blunt opinion, the Texans are not really good. They're pretty, they should be in the bottom of the league this year. So that being said, Bruce said the starters will play at least to the half. So I'm expecting Brady to go out there and put some points on the board, which we're missing last week. So I'm expecting if the starters do play, we should score on them. They don't have a great defense, and we should be burning Bernard or Hargraves that should be out there for the Texans. We should just be destroying it just like he allowed it to happen to us. So from offensively, we should be scoring. Defensively, I want to see us get to the quarterback. If JPP is going to get a few snaps, Shaq is too, and other starters, let's get after it a little bit here. Send some blitz packages, nothing too fancy, but let's see if we can get there. We haven't gotten there a lot besides Tryon, really. So I'm really expecting a dominant first half, just because if our starters are out there, we should beat their starters without issue. Once the backups get in there, I'm hoping Trask gets a fair shot, man. Someone please catch a ball. That would be nice to watch. That, and then from the defensive side of the backups, I want to see our boys Grant Stewart and KJ Britt stay consistent. And also someone that we haven't mentioned a lot, is Whitehead going to play? I mean, there's a mysterious injury around him. We don't really know what it is. They keep saying it's day-to-day, so I would like to see an update there, and hopefully, he can get a few snaps with the starters as well. But that really wraps it up for me for the Texans. Musa, what do you think there?
Well, it's preseason game number 3, and the way I see it is, either these guys, they had a good game and a bad game, or a bad game and a good game, or maybe they kind of either had just averages games. This game is basically, the way I see it from a coach's perspective, more about consistency. This is more about seeing, all right, well, listen, you had your ups and downs, no matter who you are. You had your ups and downs these first 2 games. So, let's see, have you learned it all right? We gave you 2 chances now to put it out on the field, and, have you taken advantage of this opportunity? And this is really it. Now, this is, I find that this one the most important, obviously. So, this is really it. I guess for me, I'm very excited to hear that the starters are scheduled to play at least a half. I'm excited to see how that is going to work, at least team chemistry wise. Maybe with the backups. I guess this is good to see. All right, well, listen, starters wise, you obviously know what you know what you're doing. So to the rookies and the backups, to the people who got to make a name for themselves, how are you playing with our starters? Are you working well with them? Are you working well with Tom Brady? Because listen, if you want to be a starter, then you don't need to work on having team chemistry with Kyle Trask or Blaine Gabbert. Obviously, that's important, but your eyes better be on Mr. Tom Brady. All right, that's the guy you should be really, really working well with. So uh, that's what I'm looking out for. If these starters are scheduled to play at least a half, then I'm looking for how are the offensive backups,
Yeah, I was gonna
rookies,
say
how are they working with Tom Brady?
you bring up an interesting point there, right? Because like if we think about the past two games, someone like Keyshawn Vaughan, right? He's had two solid. The first performance was really good. The second one wasn't bad. It was solid. He didn't get as many opportunities, but knowing what our top three guys are in running back position, how is he going to fare? If he gets a few shots with Brady, last year, and both times that he was in there, he fumbled the ball in critical positions. So then he went into his doghouse. He's finally out of it. So, what are your expectations from him there? You think he'll do better now? A good offseason summer for him, an actual preseason, an actual training camp. COVID's still around, but there's a little bit more lenient rules. How do you think he'll perform in this one?
I think he should perform very well, and I think he'll give it his all, or at least he should. I mean, listen, a guy like him is fighting for a spot. I don't think he has it easy, so he needs to make sure he's on his tippy toes, giving it all he has, because I mean, we're cutting people left and right, and obviously, realistically, I think he will make the team, but. Uh, I mean, what really matters is if he's ever going to play, and I'm sure he cares about that as well. So, um, I don't know if this is even relevant, but it is something that kind of came to my head, which was, for some of these backups who already got a year or two down on the field, maybe they'll take it a little more seriously when they're playing with the starters. Obviously when you got a dude like Tom Brady now, throwing it to you compared to I don't know someone like Kyle Trask, it's like a random little like young dude and then it's like your big brother. So you don't want to disappoint Tom Brady. Well, you don't want to disappoint anyone on that team, especially the coaches. So I think people like him, those guys who've been in there for a year or two or even three, those are the ones who I think are going to be really showing out or going to be trying to show out, of course, along with the starters. So that's really on what I have to say on my end.
Yeah, no, I agree. So talking about depth and positioning. How about we transition to what we've been doing the last few weeks? Talking about our studs, and this week we'll focus on offensive and defensive line, and we'll talk about a stud who needs to impress you more and who's on the bubble. So I'll give it a first shot here at my studs, and then I'll pass it back to you, Musab, here. So for the O-line, I put as my stud, which is probably shouldn't be a surprise, is our boy Tristan Wirfs. I mean, this man was an absolute unit last year. He only gave up one sack to Khalil Mack, which is nothing to be ashamed of. And then if you think about against who he went, he went against that Washington football team line, which is absolutely great. They went guys like Bosa, like Cameron Jordan, so he was really impressive. And then I'm expecting a guy like this to have absolutely no sophomore slump. When it comes to my defensive line guy, I'm going Vita Vea. I know he didn't play a lot last year, but ever since he's landed in Tampa, we've had a top three defensive line, and last year we were or top three against the rush, and last year we were the first again. So, a guy like him, very impressive, and it allows Shaq and JPP to just run free when you have a dude like that in the middle, and then next to him you have Sue. So, I mean, I think he complements a lot of the other guys. So I think his presence in the middle it's outstanding. So that being said, do you agree there, Musab, or who do you had for your your stutter, your standouts for both the O line and the D line?
Yeah, for my stud on the O line, I have Mr. Ryan Jensen, and the reason why I say this is because I just feel like he did a phenomenal job for me, and I didn't really know too much about him this last year. And just seeing what he does, what he's supposed to do, which is protect the quarterback,
Yeah,
giving
absolutely.
good snaps, and he did a great job. I find those kind of small things that people don't really look out on very important, and I think he's done an absolute phenomenal job. So he's someone I'm rooting for just because the other guys, I knew about Ali Marpet and Donovan Smith before, and I think they're going to have great seasons, but. I think someone like Ryan Jensen is just someone personally I have my eye on. Personally, I just think that the aggressiveness. He brings a kind of this kind of a little, he's got a little grit to him. He brings this kind of nice little strong attitude on the field, which is good. We need those kind of tough guys. We need people who are ready to do whatever it takes to make sure every single one of our guys stays protected, specifically Tom Brady. But on my defensive side, I'm gonna have to go with Vita Vea as well. And seeing him towards the end of the season, what he's capable of. Again, he was also a guy that I liked a lot, but I never really dug deep and really kind of analyzed his play of game or really kind of kept my eyes out on him specifically. But again, this past season, specifically towards the end of the season, postseason, uh, watching him during specific plays and what he did. Specifically, I'll always remember it was like this third down play in the postseason. I forgot who we were playing, but we were just trying to run the ball in, and they had Vea at fullback because they just needed a bus to run over those guys. So they said, "All right, Vea, hop in. You're going on O."
Yeah,
So
a fun fact about him.
exactly.
He was a running back in high school.
I wouldn't be surprised. For a big dude like him, he's got some speed. So I think he's going to be taking advantage of that for sure. I'm praying that he is 100% as healthy as he can be with this upcoming season, and that way we make sure as well that we take care of his injuries. Because if not, then we're looking at Nacho step up. So we'll see what goes on. But yeah, those are my two studs for this upcoming season.
Awesome, awesome. So how about we move into, who do we think has to impress us a little bit more, or maybe show us more, and I'll give it a try here with our O-line and D-line. With our O-line, and this might surprise some of our listeners, I'm going with Alex Kappa. Reason being that when he went down, Aaron Stinney was absolutely great. So, I think that, if Alex has one of those ups and downs that he's had in the past, thankfully it didn't happen a lot last year. I think in part all these guys played really well because it was, and not to say that Jameis is not good, but when you have the GOAT behind you, it's like a little more effort, a little more conscious about what you're doing. But I do think that Alex Caba is still someone that if he's not careful, he might lose his job because all I've heard is and read is that Aaron Stinney has been great in preseason. He's been great in training camp, and even Bruce, in an interview about 2 days ago, he said that he thinks that competition was closer than people would have thought. So that's good. Again, I mean, it's good depth there, and it's good to have another guy that can really really play. From a defensive line standpoint, I'm going with Nacho. Raheem Nunez Roches. I think he's a solid role player. He helps with the running game. But I would like to see him get more to the quarterback. I mean, I feel like he's never around them. So from that perspective, I just want to see a little more from him when it comes to getting to the quarterback, especially when you have guys so good next to you like Sue, JPP, Shaq. Like I think he should be getting a little more, a little closer. So those are my two guys there. Musab, feel free to, what do you think about these two, and then chime in with your boys.
Absolutely. All right. Well, for my O line, I'm gonna have to agree with you on Alex Kappa because of again Aaron Stinney's performance. I don't think that it's something very concerning. I just think that the battle is what's going to kind of create this thing that it's something that he needs to impress us more because it's going to be really competitive between him and Stinney is the way I feel. So for that reason, that's why I got Alex Kappa as my guy. On the defensive side, though, I have again. I don't know why this is how I feel, but this past season just really made me just value the importance of backup. So I think that there's a little battle between William Golston and Steve McClendon, and it's just the way I see it. William Golston, he's put his time in the NFL, and the way I see it is it's just a nice. It should be a nice transition sometimes, or hopefully the backup role for Steve McClendon might be turning into a part-time starter. It's just the way I feel. I think someone like Steve McClendon, we got him randomly. At first, I was like, okay, but I was like, hey, this guy actually turned out to be pretty solid. And again, I think he's just another piece to add to the the puzzle that helped us. So that's why I have a little William Golston McClendon battle going on. So I don't want to specifically say and just kind of target Golston, but that's kind of just what I'm feeling. I'm feeling like these two little battles on each side. I'm feeling that things can happen. So
I agree.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean that could happen with any of these guys. The things are going to happen. Injuries are going to happen. So it might. You never know whose time it might be to shine. Honestly.
Great. So that one being said, now let's move to our bubble guys, right? I mean, who do we think might make the 53-man rosters coming here in a few weeks? I'll start with an offensive line guy that I didn't know a whole lot about, but I've been a little impressed. You know, these past couple of weeks, who I thought was going to be my bubble guy, and then made me change. So I thought Nick Levert was going to be my bubble guy, but he's been really good in preseason, and he's been able to play multiple positions, which is as a backup sometimes, and especially in the O line, that's something you're looking for. Because again, to your point earlier, Musab, you don't know when injuries are going to happen, and having a guy that can play different positions is very helpful. So he won't be my bubble guy, but someone I wanted to give a little bit of credit because he was going to. My bubble guy though is Jake Bensinger. You know, I just don't see a place where he makes the squad. I think reports are that he's been a little, he's been good in camp, but he was also hurt. And he's not as adaptable as as Nick. So and then being behind Wirfs and Wells, I just don't see how he makes it. So unfortunately, I don't think he'll be making the squad there from an O-line perspective. From a D-line perspective, again, I had a battle between two dudes, Patrick O'Connor and Khalil Davis. But after this past weekend and the monster game that Patrick O'Connor had, I think he sealed his role, and I think he'll make the squad. He had, again, 3 tackles, 2 tackles for losses, and a sack. So, that being said, I don't think he's in the bubble. I think he's going to make it. And then Khalil Davis got a lot of snaps. And, he only had 1 tackle. I mean, he was playing late in that game too, so I just don't think he's going to be able to make it. So, that being said, Musab, what do you think about the guys that I went over, and I want to hear about your bubble guys as well.
Well, my bubble guy for O line is, I don't want to nitpick on someone specific because I don't have too many kind of feelings / expectations for a lot of these backups, except a few like Stinney or Hainsey. But that being said, my on the bubble guys are the same people that we picked up this offseason. To those people that we're given a chance. We just got Hubbard, and we got Benzinger, as you said. So are these guys are they helpful? And I just think that it's just going to turn out to be that one of them may stay, probably, but all the other guys we're just going to have to let go. This is just a little tryout phase we have, the way I feel. But on the defensive side, though, I'm going to have to go with Khalil Davis as well because, listen, we just got him. He hasn't put his time on the field yet, so I want to see what he's able to do. But then again, I haven't not been hearing too much about his name, so it just makes me wonder, how much damage can he do on the field for us, / being that he doesn't get too many opportunities, or being that I guess he's not even taking advantage of these opportunities the way I see it. I don't know how useful he's going to be, so that's why he's my guy on the bubble.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, when we haven't heard a lot of his name, and he's been a guy that's gotten a lot of snaps in 2 preseason games. So that being said, unfortunately, I don't think he'll make it. But I wanted to go back to a point you made about the offensive line, because you did point out Hainsey and Stinney, and this is why the offensive line is one of the areas that besides the D-backs on the defense, it gets me a little nervous because I don't think we have that much depth there. So, besides Hainsey and Stinney, are you nervous about this area? And I know this is not part of the bubble and standout, but it's an area that I'm a little concerned about. So I kind of wanted to get more of your feel of, because if one of these dudes goes out, then you got Stinney and then you got Hainsey. And even though, I spoke a little bit about Nick Levert, I mean, I still thought he was a bubble guy. So what are your expectations there? And, again, knock on wood, none of these dudes get hurt. But I think we're a little bit thin on this area.
I agree with you 100%. The offensive line is, I would probably say, my Achilles heel, or at least backups wise, the way I see it, it's kind of the Achilles heel because of our team. Because what you said is exactly how I feel. I mean, we got Hainsey and Stinney as well, but I don't know how to feel about the rest of these guys. Like Hubbard, Nick Leverett, Josh Wells. How do these people come into this situation? Are they, how important are they? How helpful have they been in the past? Definitely a shout out to a few of them for sure for stepping up when we needed them this past season. But it's definitely something to consider because listen, Tom Brady, he ain't getting younger. So for that
Yeah.
reason, we got to make sure he stays protected at all times. So with the depth we have, I just hope that everyone stays as healthy as they can. But maybe we need to give it more time. I also think that sometimes, Stefan, there come situations that the backup or even the third string, because they know they have to step up, they're on their feet extra hard. When you
Agreed.
know that you're a third string, then you kind of have a feeling that, especially when, just imagine you're third string behind like someone like Devin White. You know for sure that unless Devin White gets injured, ain't no way he's going to come off. He's not going to have like a bad game or something. If he does, he might have to go out for a bit. But so what I'm saying is, then, when that kind of happens, you kind of feeling a little off. But then boom, out of nowhere, now you're a starter. Okay. Now you're taking it a lot more seriously. Practice, you're giving it like 1,000%. So, maybe that might be something part of the equation when it comes to these backups stepping up for us this upcoming season if needed be. But I hope that doesn't happen. But and again, it's part of the game.
I agree, and again, knock on wood, no injuries, please. We got one more before the real thing starts. And I know you mentioning your boy Devin White. You're probably pretty excited about this. So the NFL on a yearly basis, for our listeners who are not used to this process, they let the players vote on their top 100. The Bucs have a few, but we decided to go from probably about 50, to 30 in, because we have one of the highest rated, the highest rated defensive Buck made a list, which is Devin White at 28. Before I pass it to Musab, who's probably pretty pumped about this, because that means that that players don't think that there's only 27 players that are better than this guy on the field, which is amazing. So he wasn't even on the list last year, Musab. So what are your thoughts there? I know you're probably pretty excited, but 28 is not too shabby for a guy that hasn't been in the league this long. So it's awesome that he's getting his praise too, because I feel like a guy like Levante took us to win to finally make this list. A guy again that didn't make it last year, but Devin White up there, something very respectful. So what do you think?
Not too shabby at all, Stefan. I think it's honestly it's ideally where I had him. Realistically, seriously, and I think the players, they put him at 28 because of the success of the team, which I guess kind of helped them really stand out. When you watch a championship team, then you're thinking, oh wow, well, who are the key stars? And then you think, oh yeah, Devin White, and then you remember, okay, well this guy's an absolute tank. He's a beast on the field, and it's only his second year, so this guy's got a lot more in store. And I think those players know ahead that they know that Devin White's going to be coming faster, stronger, more aggressive ahead of time. So that's really about it. I mean, that's where I really had him. I had him in the 20 range, ideally. I'm happy it happened this way, and I think it seems legitimate to me. I mean, the players, they've seen it himself. I'm sure they took some time to kind of look into this as well. But this is it. I'm very happy, and I'll tell you this. I think Devin White will be making the top 15 next season.
I
Next
love
time we
it.
talk about this, yes. So we'll say what, August 25th, 26th, 2022. We'll recap on what goes on this year, and we'll see if the players come out with a little Devin White ranking. But yeah, I got him as top 15.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, he only has, if you, not counting Khalil Mack, since he can't, he doesn't, he plays linebacker, but it's kind of outside linebacker. So there's only two other linebackers ahead of him, Fred Warner and Bobby Wagner. So, that's very impressive for a guy who's not been in the league for a long time. So that being said, we probably knew who our highest Buccaneer ranked was going to be. It was our boy Tom. The NFL also released the top 10. They haven't ranked them yet. That episode is coming out this Sunday. So before it comes out, I wanted to get Musab your thoughts on where do you think in the top 10 Tom Brady's going to land, and I'll throw out the players that are there, and you tell me, from 10 to 1, where do you think he'll be? So Devontae Adams, Josh Allen, Brady, Donald, Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins, Kelsey, Mahomes, Rodgers, and TJ Watt. So where's our boy Brady going to land?
Wow, I mean that is one lineup for sure. But listen, with the career he's had and with what he has done to this Buccaneers organization, I mean, you would be a fool to not put this guy in the top 5 for sure. I got this guy locked in the top 5 for sure. I mean, I'm going to be honest. He's not the prime Brady, but I think I have him as top 5 just because of who he is and what he contributes on and off the field. I mean, this guy is special, and I think the mindset or just the wisdom he has and the knowledge and expertise he has being the quarterback he is and being that he's been playing for such a long time, it's a dangerous weapon to have for sure. Tom Brady is someone you dream of having as a quarterback coach. I mean, when you have the GOAT, the man who's won so many championships, who's seen it all, who's played with all kinds of people, I mean, you basically have like the encyclopedia of being a quarterback in front of you, if this guy's coaching you. So that's why I have this man top 5 for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if we had him at top 3. Ideally top 5, top 3 for sure. And if we had him at top 1, I'll be like, wow, I wouldn't be super surprised, but I would be like, all right, dang, okay. Yeah, I mean, he earns it. He earned it for sure. I would say, hey, look, if they give him number 1, I would be happy. Well, what do you think?
I'm going with, top 5 was good, but I'm going top 3 just because a lot of the things you covered there. I mean, we were a franchise that was struggling, right? I mean, we went 7-9 before he came over. We knew and I feel like most of the Bucs fans knew we had the tools. We just didn't have the guy. I mean, even though Jameis threw a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns, I mean, turnover machine really cost us a lot of games. So, I think I'm going to say top 3. I wouldn't be surprised if the players vote him first, just because, I think we had one of the toughest roads to the Super Bowl, as we've discussed before, ever. He moved to another team. There's basically, the offseason workouts are like not even remotely close to what they normally are. There's no preseason, no fans. He moves across the country, different system. It was a tough situation, and then we end up winning the Super Bowl, being the first team to ever do it at home. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes 1. I would probably say, I don't know how we rank it, but I would be shocked if he's not in the top 3. But I think, if they vote him number 1, I also wouldn't be surprised. But I would go top 3 there. And something that I wanted to mention, you mentioned the QB coach, which is Clyde Christensen. How lucky has this man been? He's coached Peyton Manning, Big Ben, and Tom Brady.
Oh, man, I can imagine what his salary is.
So that's been pretty cool there. So, moving from that, we wanted to mention maybe some updates for the team here and some roster cuts. There haven't been many. You touched on Suckup being, he tested positive for COVID. No, thankfully he's vaccinated, so he should be all right. But this is a situation where I think we should monitor, for the rest of the year. Again, I know the NFL is not being strict for those players who are vaccinated, but when we do travel to these other cities, you can still catch it. So I would hope, and I heard Bruce say today that there's the NFL rules and then there's his rules. So we don't want to be dealing with this throughout during the season, because this year they're gonna if a team can't play because of COVID, you're gonna forfeit the game. There's no rescheduling. So again, hope that the squad knows that and that we can move forward there. And then you brought up Musab, Jonathan Hubert. We added him there for the offensive line depth that you discussed. Is there anything else you kind of want to add about him, or you're good with where we are with him?
I mean, I'm excited to see what he does, or how many opportunities he gets this upcoming game, because you know what I just said. I mean, I'm very iffy on the backups when it comes to our offensive line. So I want to see every single one of these backups or rookies, no matter who you are. If you're not a starter, then I'm hoping to see some action going on. I'm hoping to see some standouts on the offensive line.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree with all you said, and
I was going to mention Jordan Whitehead.
okay,
And
good.
just a quick update on Jordan Whitehead right now is so big thing right now is we're seeing improvement, but obviously not too much has come out yet. Specifically, they're staying updated, taking it day by day, but also not having any kind of vibe of really pushing it because it is preseason. So no need to push it right now, but. The only reason I mentioned that is just, because someone like him and just the DBs and everything with what's going on with the backups, I just want to mention that, uh, I hope that, we're keeping an eye out on our DBs, because I am this upcoming game.
Absolutely.
Other than the dudes we talked about, Stefan, that's what I'm going to be looking at DBs wise because I want to see. All right, well, these are the two things I've been always iffy about: the offensive line and the DBs. Those are the two things I really just can't really fully just be like, all right, we got this. I'm feeling really pumped, because I feel like those two things have been this past season. They were a roller coaster. There was ups and downs and stuff like that. So I guess the big thing is team chemistry, and then. Just depends on how bad some of these backups want to step up.
I agree.
Yeah. So, the way I see it is this better be that wake up call game. Honestly, this is the wake up call game for every single one of those backups, rookies. This is it. I said it before. You had game one, you had game two. Whether you had two good ones, two bad ones, good, bad, bad, good. It don't matter. This is it. Stefan, do you think this game is the wake up call?
Yeah, I would agree, Musab. I think that this is the wake-up call. I mean, this is what typically, I know typically it's a third out of 4 games, but if the starters are going at half, this is the dress-up game. So, and again, we won't play football for like 12 days after this. So this is the wake-up call. Let's see Brady and the boys score a few points, and the defense is not that good. And let's see the defense, eat the Texans up. Let's see a few sacks and stuff, and it should be a wake-up call. So I'm excited for that, and let's see it.
And speaking of eating the Texans up, I hope every single one of y'all have some nice food and some drinks ready for this upcoming game we got against the Texans. And I also just want to say we thank you for listening to us. You gave us all this time, so we ask you to at least follow us on RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. That is at RBLR Sports. All right. And also, make sure to like and subscribe to our podcast, which is on Spotify. If you don't have Spotify, that's okay. We got Apple. If you don't have Apple, that's okay. We got Google Podcasts. We have iHeartRadio, and we're on YouTube and other major podcast platforms. So, any final thoughts, Stefan? It's been a pleasure, and I am really fired up. So, what about you?
Absolutely, brother. Cheers, to all our listeners. Listen, this is it. This is finally the last preseason game. This is the dress rehearsal. Let's see a good performance by our starters, and after that, I mean, we all know what's coming. I mean, September 9th can't get here quick enough, and Musab, it's always a pleasure. So I'll pass it back to you for the final thoughts.
Well, thanks again, everyone. I hope you're ready. I hope you're fired up. We are getting closer and closer to the regular season. And with that being said, go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.